Good morning everyone, Ian from RTO here. Welcome to another Battle of the Debuts where we look at two bands and their debut albums and basically find out which one was the better one. So today we're going way back, we're going back into the 50s today, and we're going to look at two artists, one from America and one from the UK. And if it weren't for these two chaps, we wouldn't be listening probably to what we are listening today. These are the two people that influenced a lot of people on both sides of the Atlantic. One more than the other, but to me they're both an important part of the rock and roll history. We're talking about Elvis Presley and Cliff Richard. Without these two, we wouldn't be listening to what we are today. So, as ever, we always do the album that come out first. So, in this case, the first album is the self-titled Elvis Presley. It was released on RCA Victor on the 13th of March 1956. Remember, the Clash sort of did a homage to this cover. It was recorded in Nashville, Tennessee, and on here we have got, of course, Elvis Presley doing the vocals and acoustic guitar and piano on one of the tracks, Scotty Moore on the electric guitar, guest Chet Atkins, great guitarist, and I'm Counting You and Money Honey. We've got Floyd Kramer doing some piano as well, Shorty Long, Bill Back on the bass, DJ Fontana on some drums, Johnny Bonero's on drums as well. We've got Ben Spear and Brock Spear doing some backing vocals, Doug Poindexter doing some percussion guitar on one of the tracks, and the producers at the Sun Recordings is Sam Phillips and Stephen H. Scholes on the RIC. So quite a few people involved in this album. So side one, track one. This was actually recorded on the 30th of January 1956, and it's a version of Carl Perkins' Blue Suede Shoes, of course. That's a great track to open up the album with, and I'm going to be quite honest here, I prefer Elvis's version than Carl Perkins. I think this is a little bit more oomphy than Carl's. It's a great song, full stop. It's just a great rock and roll track. Second track, Counting on You. Now this was recorded on the 11th of January 1956, and it's called I'm Counting on You. It's a nice sort of ballady sort of song written by Don Robinson, and lots of other stars have recorded this. It's got some nice guitar work from Chet Atkins, who's a pretty good guitar player, and it's a really good track, and I do like that song, and I like most versions of this, but Elvis is the one that really stands out for me. Then we got I Got a Woman, a song Ray Charles did. 2 years. He recorded this 2 years before, in 1954, and Elvis has a really good version of this. I like both versions. I can't really pick between both. They're both great songs. Then we have One-Sided Love Affair. I love the big bass on this. The boom, 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 boom. I just love that sound. To me, that is rock and roll. It's a great song. Pretty good stuff. Then we have a track called I Love You Because. Now this was written and recorded by a country singer, Leon Payne, in 1949. Quite a lot of people have covered this. I mean, the one that everyone sort of remembers more is, of course, the Al Martino version from '63 and Jim Reeves' version in '64. I think Elvis does an all-right version. Now, I think the version that everyone really remembers, of course, is Jim Reeves. I remember hearing Jim Reeves' version because my nan was a big Jim Reeves fan. It's a great little song, and yeah, Elvis doesn't do a bad job on that one. Then we get Just Because, another song written 1929. It was recorded by the Sheldon Brothers in 1933, and Elvis recorded it in 1954. This one was recorded in 1954, and it's not a bad version. Sort of goes a little bit different to the original, of course, but this is an old song given a new lease of life, I think. Then we flip over to side 2. Opens up with Tutti Frutti. I think Little Richard's is much better. It's not a bad version, but give me Little Richard's version any day of the week. Then we get a track called Trying to Get You. Song written by Rosemary McCoy and Charles Singleton. It was originally recorded by Washington DC vocal group The Eagles in 1954. And then Elvis did his version. And I think this is a better version, of course. And apparently Elvis recorded 5 versions of this song, but he recorded it on there's some live versions of this, but I think this is the best one I've heard. Pretty good track. Then we get I'm Gonna Sit Right Down and Cry Over You. It's a song written by Joe Thomas and Howard Biggs in 1953, originally recorded by country star Roy Hamilton, and I think this has now become quite a song that well-received version of that Elvis did. It's my favourite track on the album, actually, and I love that bass on it as well. It's just a really good song, and I think Elvis has done the definitive version of this. Next song then is called I'll Never Let You Go. Little Darlin. This is again recorded way back in 1954. It was a song written by Jimmy Wakely. It's quite an old song, and Elvis does a really good version of it. Then we get a version of Blue Moon. Okay, Richard Rodgers wrote this with Lorenz Hart. There's so many different versions of this. They're upbeat versions. This is a more chilled version, and it's a very good version of it, and I do like it. Then we get another song most of these are covers, of course. We get Money Honey, which was released in 1953 by Clyde McPhatter. Backed for the first time by the formerly New Drifters, of course. Other people have recorded it, quite a few. I think Bill Ward and the Dominoes did it, but Elvis's version is a pretty good version, and I think this is the best version of the song. Last song on the track. This is very hard to judge, this album, because there's lots of covers of great rock and roll songs and old country songs, but Elvis does a fine job. You got some really early recordings of Elvis from 1954, and I do play this a lot because I enjoy playing this album. It's got some great rock and roll on it. That's what I think. What do the old critics think of this one? Well, obviously there's not much people writing about it, but we have got some information on where it charted. Got to number 1 on both sides of the Atlantic. and in the United States it did go platinum. So yeah, well received. So let's have a look at the nuts and bolts of this one. Okay, song quality, lots of covers of course, but they're all good. They're all great songs. So I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. Production. Production's pretty good now, considering some of these recordings were made in 1954. Obviously this is a remastered version of it, but it's still got really raw plug in and go stuff, which is really good, and it's an historical album, and so I'm going to give this a production of 4 out of 5. Reception, well, when it goes to number 1 both sides of the Atlantic, yeah, now you're on to a winner, aren't you? So I've got to give it 5 out of 5. Reception. Cover design, it's a great cover, great picture of Elvis. The pink and green really set the black and white picture off as well, and so I'm going to give that a 5 out of 5. So the debut album Elvis Presley gets a total of 18 out of 20. So let's move across the Atlantic. So we go to 1959 now, and the debut album by Cliff Richard and his band the Drifters, who eventually became the Shadows of course, and it's simply just called Cliff. Now this album was recorded in the studio in front of an audience of several hundred fans, and it was recorded over 2 nights during February 1959 at Studio 2 of EMI Recording Studios, which better became known as Abbey Road, of course. The producer was Norrie Paramore, and the band was Cliff Richard, of course, on lead vocals, Hank Marvin on lead guitar, Bruce Welch on the rhythm guitar, Jet Harris on the bass, and Tony Meehan on the drums. Got some additional singers here, the Mike Psalm singers. Did a lot of work with the BBC. So, opens up with a song called Apron Strings. It's one of my favourite Cliff songs. Obviously originally done by Billy the Kid. And it's great playing. The guitar work from Hank's good. Cliff sounds good. What spoils it? Every 10 seconds randomly this screaming. Don't mind people coming in and having a watch what's going on, but the screaming sort of takes over the song and it gets lost. Second track is called My Babe, which is a song Willie Dixon wrote for Little Walter. Elvis Presley has covered it as well. It's a great track. I love this song. Doesn't matter who sings it, it's just a really good song. Again, there's a little bit of screaming on this as well. Random screaming in places that you don't expect them to scream. Then we get Down the Line. This is a Roy Orbison song again. It's the B-side of Roy Orbison's Ooby Dooby, and Cliff does a great version of this, really good. Then we get another really good cover, a Ricky Nelson tune now, I Got a Feeling. Again, what spoils it is that bloody screaming. Sometimes you just can't hear Cliff singing because the screaming just takes over the track and it really irritates. Then we get a little number by the Drifters called Jet Black. It's quite good. The good thing about this, there's no screaming on this. It's quite a weird track. It's an instrumental with a bit of vocal, and it goes jet black, jet black, jet black, dum dum. It's all right. And then our Cliff does an Elvis song, "Baby I Don't Care." Great version, but it's spoilt again by the screaming. You just can't hear the song. I think they got the whole mixture, the production wrong on this. Yeah, put the screaming in, but make sure you can hear the band and Cliff. Then we get a cover of Richie Valens' Donna. Nice version of this. Even though we're screaming on this, even though it's a nice song. Then we get Move It, my favourite Cliff Richard song, but this version is not very good because it's just full of screaming teenagers that just totally ruin it. Let me go on to side 2, a song that was made famous by Little Richard, and it's Ready Teddy. Great little version of this by Cliff, not bad. Not as much screaming on this. Too Much, another song that Elvis did, and both, you know, the Elvis version and the Cliff version are great. There's nothing wrong with that. Then we get Don't Bug Me Baby, a song originally done by Milton Allen. It's great except for that blooming screaming. Then we get Driftin. Now this is an instrumental and it's a great track. Even at this stage you knew that this backing band were going to do something. Some great guitar work from Hank, and I do like that. Then we get Cliff doing a cover of a Buddy Holly song, That'll Be the Day. It's a quiet version, at least you can hear him. There's not much screaming on this one. It's not a bad version either. Then we get Be-Bop-A-Lula. Not the best version. It's done by the Drifters. Give me Gene Vincent any day of the week. Danny, another song that Cliff and Elvis have both done, and I think they both do a great version of this. Then we end up with a Jerry Lee Lewis number, Whole Lot of Shakin. Maybell did it first, but Jerry Lee Lewis did the best version. And again we got the screaming kids on it, and you just can't hear what's really going on. Okay, I think this is a great album. I heard it a lot when I was younger because my mum was a big Cliff fan. But as I go over the years, I really want to understand which bird brain decided to let some people into Abbey Road. I like the idea of it, but I think the screaming on this absolutely spoils the actual work that the boys did. They could have mixed it better, I don't know, but the screaming can really put you off, and at times you just couldn't hear it. That's what I think. I do like the album, but I think the screaming all the way through just spoil it. How did what the critics think? Well, there's not much again written about it, but what I did find out, the album reached number 4 in the UK charts and spent 31 weeks on the chart, and a time that the chart was only a top 10, so that's pretty good. So what's the nuts and bolts on this one? Song quality. The Cliff ones are good, the Drifters ones are not, but on the whole that's pretty good. So I'm going to give this a 4 out of 5. Production, terrible production. I think they just got it all wrong. What it should have been that you can hear the screaming, but the most important thing about this album is hearing Cliff and the Drifters, and it doesn't work that way. So unfortunately, I can only give this a 3 out of 5. Reception, very good. Number 4, and spending 31 weeks on a chart that only was a top 10. That's pretty impressive, even for 1959. So I'm going to give it 5 out of 5. Cover design, great cover, iconic cover, 5 out of 5. So the total for Cliff Richard and the Drifters is 17 out of 20. Just one less than Elvis. Okay, this is gonna be tough. It really is. Both great singers, both made a great contribution to rock and roll. But I'm afraid, personally, I think the Elvis album is better because it's the better production. If the production on the Cliff album and the screams were more in the background instead of the foreground, it would have been a tougher decision to make. But going on listening to these two, and I've listened to them quite a lot, Elvis, this production on it, considering some of them songs I said were 1954, it's very good. So clear cut winner today for me, really, and it is Elvis Presley. But what do you think? Are you an Elvis fan, or are you more of a Cliff fan? Put your answers below. Okay, I'll be back later, and we've got album artwork, and we are looking at the album artwork of Holland's finest rock band, Golden Earring. We're going to do the whole caboodle today, because being it they have come up with some weird and wonderful designs, some great ones and not so great, so we'll be doing that. Also, don't forget, I'll put the advert up now for live stream back next Thursday. Looking forward to doing it again. Really miss doing that. Rocky's ready for it, Mastermind Dave's ready for it, I'm ready for it. So considering that back in June I didn't think I would be doing it until Christmas, I've made such great progress, and I feel confident enough to talk to you for an hour or more. So all that next week. The little video what's on next week will be out later today as well. So I will see you all later. Bye for now.